Well, good morning, friends. Thanks for clicking on this video and joining in on what is a continuing conversation. And I just kind of want to put something out into the ether, just simply because there's two sides to this discussion. You have those that are the purist, those that want to take the challenge of owning a black powder gun, revolver, and staying 100% authentic, true to the course. And those of us, like myself, that absolutely love these revolvers, these firearms, and making them a little more practical for in the field use, which is what I do. Like when I go out antler scouting, this is the time of the year when the deer and elk start shedding. I like to go out looking for them when I have time. And now that I'm retired, I have more time to do so. But even 20 years ago, when I was an avid fly fisherman, I'd load everything up in my vehicle, take off into the woods, but I always had a black powder revolver as my self-defense weapon. And I know a lot of people might say, well, that's crazy, you're stupid. Well, you're welcome to those thoughts and those opinions. I don't share them. But one thing that I have noticed, especially since, a lot of these black powder revolvers, black powder guns are making their way on the YouTube and had made their way for many, many, many years, I see a reoccurring theme that has to do with, the functionality of these guns. For instance, when I see somebody do a review of a Pieta 1860 Army, I see people talk about there's no knurling up on top of the hammer to grab the gun. That's why they favor U-Birdie, because U-Birdie does do some knurling. Well, as I showed in a previous video, take your Dremel tool and do the knurling yourself, which is what I've done here. Okay? And or if you're the type of person that really wants to carry one of these in the field and you want to make darn sure it hits the point of aim, then there's plenty of videos suggesting changing out the front sight, slick shotting your own cone so that you can have reliable ignition. Okay? Now, over the years, and as I have explained, I've never ever owned anything smaller than the 44 caliber until I got Friday's Nightmare. And I got to admit, guys, I really, really enjoy that 36 caliber. Probably more so now that I've owned several of them. Which one do I prefer? Well, if I'm in my yard shooting, just plinking, that's good for the 36 caliber. But when I go out in the woods, I want that 44 caliber, okay? So, but that's my personal preference. But one thing that I want to get to, in particular with this video, because again, I've watched a lot of videos, people, giving their review of the U-Birdie versus Pieta and things like that. And the one thing that really does jump out at me is the knurling on the triggers, okay? Now, I'm going to show it with my 1862 Pocket Navy, okay? This is a U-Birdie, well, it's actually, Western Arms Corps, but which is U-Birdie. Now, just in case somebody may recognize that's been following this channel for a while, yes, I did redo the grips. Just simply when I got my 62 Pocket Police and put both firearms in my hand, this one was obtrusively uncomfortable to hold because of the oversized grip. So I did take it down, and I did put a Watco oil on it with a mild walnut stain in the oil. But what I want to get at, okay, I don't know how well the camera's going to pick it up, and I've got the sun kind of like reflecting a little bit too much off the view screen, but I'll try to do the best I can in describing what I'm getting at. In particular, if you look at these 62 pocket pistols, and also the same would hold true in your 49 pocket pistols also. If you look at the knurling is on the underside of the hammer. So if you go to cock your gun, your thumb doesn't really engage that knurling, okay? But at full cock, and if you have to decock it, that knurling provides that function. But if you go to cock it, notice the top of the hammer. It's smooth. So when you go to cock the gun, you're not getting that positive knurling grip or feeling on that hammer. And quite honestly, because the knurling on the underside of the hammer is kind of shallow, you really don't get that good, positive feeling engagement, positive contact, I'll use that phrase also, with the hammer. Even when you go to decock it, you can kind of feel it, but you still don't have that sense of positive engagement. Now on this particular revolver, I'm not going to change anything on it other than just the grips. That's it. But by comparison, let me show you what I recently did with my 1862 Pocket Police. The same thing applies. You had a smooth surface on top so that when you go to engage it, your thumb is on something that can very easily become slippery. At full cock, you have a little bit of that knurling right here. So what I did to overcome this, to make the gun, in my mind at least, maybe not period correct, as some people might like, which is fine. But I use my guns. Okay, I use mine. So I want to modify them as much as I can to make them even more practical for my purposes. Okay, so what I did is I took my Dremel tool with the thinnest blade that I have, and I have some very, very, very thin blades. I could have probably gone after this with a triangular file, but for doing this quickly, I use my Dremel tool. And there again, I don't know how well the camera's going to pick it up, so I cut 3 or 4 grooves going down, and I even went to the bottom of the hammer. What would be, there's a little curl. If you can see it, there's just a little curl right at the very, very end of it. So I took my Dremel tool and that thin blade, and I cut those. I cut 3. Let's see, I cut 3 notches downwards and got to the bottom. Then I took one. Then I made 1 cut across the top. Now, when I go to cock the gun, I have a very positive engagement at the top of that hammer. And not only that, when I go to lower it down and the hammer naturally rotates or follows the curvature, my thumb is still holding on to a very positive engagement because I notched the top of the hammer for that purpose. As you can tell, I got some traffic going by. But for me, like I said, I use my guns basically as an everyday walking around the woods type thing. Even when I go, say, like squirrel hunting with my 36 caliber long gun, I have a black powder gun, revolver, strapped to my side, just in case. Fortunately for me, I've never had anything that would require me to become the protecting type of soul to kind of like soft pedal what really should be saying. But anyhow, guys, you know, at least from my perspective, and if you like using the guns and you listen to a lot of these people reviewing their likes and dislikes, well, especially when it comes to the knurling on these triggers, don't be afraid. If you can get your hands on a Dremel tool, don't be afraid to do what I've done. Take that Dremel tool and make the knurling so that you have a good positive grip on that trigger, whether you're cocking it or lowering it. So anyhow, that's all I really want to say about that at this point in time. I've got some chores around the property to do, so I don't know when I'll actually get out to do any shooting for you all. It's getting to be that time of year, you know, and things are starting to grow, and you know, that's part of the issues of having 12.5 acres here. There's some maintenance I got to do, whether that be fix parts of the fence line on the other man's property. That's the fences bordering both properties. I kind of like to keep those in good working condition since there's cattle all around here, things like that. But as soon as I can get out and do some shooting, I want to be able to test whether the water you use in making your homemade gunpowder affects, you know, the performance of that gunpowder. At this point in time, I'm of the mind that it's really not going to adversely affect it. But, you know, shooting through a chronograph may or may not settle or answer that question. And I do have something else that I do want to test. I have a theory about something. And I do want to test that, and I'm only going to be able to test it in reality with my 62 Pocket Navy. And so when I get around to that, you might want to watch that, because right here, right now, I don't know for a fact, but I do want to test this theory out. So I have that coming up, and you know, with some other things that I've, you know, been milling around in my mind for content on this channel. So anyhow, friends, thanks for watching this. I hope I've given you some food for thought, maybe some, you know, maybe a different direction to go with some of this stuff. And you know, don't be afraid to ask questions, because I'll do my best to answer them. And once again, don't forget to hit that thumbs up, and don't forget to share this with your bestest of buddies. Bye.